The trailer for the 2025 movie Smurfs lied to us. The fourth modern theatrical release of the inexplicably popular Smurfs franchise was looking to build upon the collective $1.1 billion box office success the three previous movies had experienced. It promised us music superstar Rhianna starring a Smurfette, new songs peppered throughout the movie from some of today's hottest recording artists, while overflowing up to our white hats with loads of pop culture references and Smurf puns. Granted, all the aforementioned elements were in the movie, just not to the extent they were made out to be. Yes, Rhianna was one of the leads, but it was more of an ensemble cast that the movie showcased. The movie also didn't feature a full soundtrack's worth of potential Billboard Hot 100 songs sung by the Smurfs, and the generic comedy stylings were mostly kept to a minimum. But if the trailer didn't accurately portray the film, what was the movie actually like then? Is it possible the Smurfs finally ditched the corporate chains of Hollywood to move towards creative respectability? Or is this just another product on the corporate assembly line that Hollywood hopes to make a fast dollar on? It's the franchise that, the more people dislike it, the more money it seems to generate. Let's take a look at the 2025 film, Smurfs. Smurfs begins with a harrowing tale of the four magical books that keep the universe in balance. They get captured by four evil wizards who intend to steal all the galaxy's goodness and delve the world into chaos. Disaster is averted though when one of the books escapes and hides out in Smurf Village, housing the familiar blue friends who sing the classic Smurf song. That is, until we see Papa Smurf's brass knuckles scratching a vinyl record at a DJ booth. I'd be so curious to see what goes into these decisions to insert these kinds of scenes into kids' movies. Is it a writer who thinks it'd be funny to see old, classic Papa Smurf suddenly be hip with the kids? Or maybe it's that the movie producers struck a deal to incorporate original songs from the soundtrack in order to help market the movie? Maybe it tested really well with audiences at focus groups? Unless it's somebody's first time ever coming across this joke, I think it's time to retire the trope. On a visual note, it goes for more of a cartoony comic book style, and you can definitely see it in the way the Smurfs' eyes and mouths are animated. But while it's further proof of the amazing advancements in CGI that even lower budget feature-length cartoons can have, this movie has some strange lapses in quality. The Smurfs here look downgraded from even their recent 2017 film, and they look like they've all been used from the same Smurf template, just with different features pasted on. The environments too suffer from the same dips. There'll be scenes taking place in stunningly lush forests and haunting castles, but in another shot, the colors will appear washed out, as if they expended all the effort on the major set pieces, but left the rest of the location half finished. Papa Smurf spinning naturally leads to a new pop song playing, Everything Goes with Blue, and if there's modern music in your movie, you're practically guaranteed a choreographed dance sequence. Normally there are these over-the-top routines, but this one is surprisingly tame. There's not much in the way of dynamic movement, which is somewhat understandable because they also use this time to introduce the characters, but it's still disappointingly dull. The very beginning of the movie with the books and the wizards was fine, but this dance sequence really makes me wonder which direction they're going to lean more towards for the remaining time. We meet our two protagonists, No Name Smurf, who doesn't have a name because he doesn't have a notable skill like all the other Smurfs, and Smurfette, played by Rhianna. Rhianna starring as Smurfette has been the major marketing point for this movie. Even the beginning of the trailer that lets you know the trailer is about to start shows Rhianna in the recording booth showing how much fun she's having being a part of the movie. And then after the trailer officially starts, they again emphasize that Rhianna is Smurfette, so they're clearly pushing this as the major draw to the film. And here's something you may not know. There's a surprising amount of talented people that voice the Smurfs cast. John Goodman, Nick Offerman, and Kurt Russell are the biggest names. But did you know this movie actually stars James Corden? You wouldn't know from the one quick line he has in the trailer, but he's the film's main character No Name. I've never seen a movie minimize its ensemble by focusing on one person so much. So we'll see if the advertising is representative of how much screen time everyone gets, and if going all in on Rhianna was the correct choice. I was delighted to get a genuine laugh from the Smurfs in their first real joke though. No Name complains to Papa Smurf he still hasn't found his thing that'll give him a name, and lists examples of Smurfs who already have their lives figured out, as we see Camouflage Smurf emerge from the side of a house, Out of Focus Smurf who walks by but is completely blurry, and way back there Smurf who's far off in the distance. This is the sort of blend of humor faithful to the original series, mixed in with some fun ribbing from a current point of view. It points out the ridiculousness of there being seemingly endless amounts of Smurfs with random attributes and corresponding names in the original cartoons, like Jokey Smurf or Dreamy Smurf. I much prefer them accepting these Smurfs as part of reality, as opposed to addressing it in a meta way, so I'll already give it points for committing. We discover No Name wants to learn magic, but that the Smurfs aren't able to cast it. Smurfette relates to No Name about being unsure of herself by telling her origin story as a creation of Gargamel, but learning to choose her own path as a Smurf. Thankfully, this retelling is short, as her tale is well known to this point, being brought up in every recent Smurfs installment. This is one of Rhianna's longest bits of dialogue in the film, and I'm sorry to say, but it's flat. She sort of talks her way through it, which isn't all that shocking, not from an effort perspective, but a skill-based one. She's not a professional voice actress, and it shows, lending more credence to the faction of frustrated moviegoers who feel that their beloved cartoons are being disrespected by not hiring more competent talent in favor of trying to sell tickets by attaching a famous name to their film. In comparison, James Corden sounds good, more knowledgeable about how to properly emote as a cartoon character, and even gets his own song. That's right, the movie is also a musical, which there was no indication of this going into the movie. There's only a couple of songs, but this first one from Corden, titled Always on the Outside, is the highlight of the movie. Singing to himself about not fitting in and feeling like an outsider, he has a nice voice, and lyrically it's simple, but effective as well, and more reliant on his singing ability rather than instrumentation or flashy visuals, which is so refreshing to see in a kids movie. Unfortunately, it's a song that, unless there's a big word of mouth push to listen to it, it'll probably be dragged down by being associated with the Smurfs movie. And I believe that if this were attached to a more respectable title, we'd be talking about a song in contention for a major award. It's hands down the best part of the movie, and should be added to any cartoon music playlist. It's that good. The book overhears No Name's wish to find what makes him special, and secretly grants him the power to cast magic as he's always desired. He comes back to Smurf Village, showing off his new ability, but catches the attention of the evil wizards, specifically Ramazel, Gargamel's brother, who sends a dark force to abduct Papa Smurf. Unaware of who took Papa Smurf, No Name teleports Gargamel to Smurf Village in order to interrogate him, and at this point in the movie is when I noticed all the annoying bits I had seen in the trailer haven't really shown up. There's a few fill-ins for other words using Smurf, which has been a long-running staple in the franchise, but there isn't a bombardment of puns or corny jokes, and the Smurfs are totally serviceable and not annoying characters. I'll attribute my positive reaction partially to an unfair bias giving me the lowest of expectations, but so far, these Smurfs are inoffensive and amusing enough to go on a full hour-and-a-half adventure with. As he's being abducted, they're instructed by Papa to play a record that will take them to a mysterious figure named Ken, and it sucks them into a portal that takes them across the galaxy in a cute little traveling scene. And they wind up in a place I never expected, that I frankly can't believe they're revisiting here. They go into the real world. Again! Why do they keep insisting on putting the Smurfs in our reality? We've already had 2 live-action movies with this concept, and the Smurfs never even interact with the people here. But they do stay in their cartoon forms, which is a good move, but it adds nothing to the movie whatsoever. We also get to see the evil wizard Razamel and his intern Joel, and I like this pair. Razamel is appropriately evil, coming off as very threatening, strictly due to his competence. And Joel isn't a total bumbling assistant. efficiently handling all the duties given to him by his boss. They're a good pairing, but we're sort of taken out of the world when Rosamel is having trouble speaking to the Wizard Council over Zoom because of an issue with his microphone and the location of his podcast studio. But it more takes you out of the world than it does make you laugh, and this won't be the last time we get jokes like this. In an attempt to get the magic book, Rosamel accidentally brings back his brother Gargamel, and their sibling rivalry begins to take shape. The Smurfs come across another group of Smurfs who take them to Ken, passing through a dance floor that plays an old Rhianna song, so that's a fun nod to Rhianna being in the movie too, I suppose. They meet Ken, who is Papa Smurf's brother, and we finally reach the mandatory inserting of the word Smurf into everything, as Ken, played by Nick Offerman, argues with Smurfette about who should be in charge of rescuing Papa, saying,
"You Smurfs don't know Smurf about Smurf.
I can smurf that Smurf up and have it delivered to your house."
It's obligatory to include this old Smurf standard, and as much as I'm not a fan of it, I'm actually impressed that they demonstrated enough self-control to mostly keep this to one scene, so we don't have to be exposed to it for an extended period. We go from one dated joke to another when Gargamel asks Rosamel why he never responded to any of his emails over the years, to which Rosamel replies he blocked his emails, and they get into an argument about it. It's not groan-worthy, it just feels like filler, and that it has nothing to do with the universe we're in. These two talking about technology when there hasn't been a phone or computer in sight. These are just sort of weird jokes that they make for no reason other than to try to get us to relate to them in that very specific way. Due to No Name's inexperience with magic, he teleports the Smurfs to the Australian outback, which if there's something I realized about this movie, it's that a solid third of it is the Smurfs traveling. They're transported into space, then they're in Paris, then they have to make their way to Ken, then they have to find their way to Rosamel. I wish they would have just chosen to stay in the Smurf world rather than needlessly traveling all over the known universe. They then encounter the Snooterpoots, a race of tiny, fuzzy, bug-eyed monsters who, judging solely based on the trailers, look to be this movie's minions. They were quirky but cute, roamed as a pack, and even loved cake, screaming it at the top of their lungs. But they're abandoned quicker than they were introduced, making me wonder what the point of them even was. When No Name is called upon to use his magic to lead the charge against the wizards, he gets scared and runs away. It's Smurfette's turn to sing now, but the song feels disjointed from the message. The idea is that he's not supposed to let anyone say he's not anyone, but Corden's song was heartfelt and personal to the character. This one feels like it was made for the movie. It's an okay song, especially considering the movie it's in, but it's nowhere near as impactful as the first one was, and would have been better as a short snippet of background noise in a scene, or exclusively on the soundtrack, rather than taking 3 minutes away from potential story. The remaining Smurfs and Snooterpoots are captured, and Rosamel walks out of the room, requesting a clamato from his assistant, which is a real-world beverage containing tomato juice and dried clam broth. It is the single strangest bit of product placement I've ever heard in a cartoon, hands down. If there's one stranger, please share, because I have to know. But if that one was relatively innocuous, this next one is on par with the Sonic the Hedgehog's Zillow and Olive Garden commercial tie-ins. Smurfette and No Name sneak into the castle by hiding out in Gargamel's DoorDash order. And they have a whole conversation about how you can order anything on DoorDash to anywhere. This was my fear of what the Smurfs movie would be, and even though it hadn't been the amount I thought it would be, this lone one was pretty gross. Speaking of gross, Gargamel holds the urn, which contains the two brothers' father's ashes, and Rosamel says sometimes he puts the ashes in his assistant Joel's protein powder. Feeding a dead person's ashes to an unwitting person? It's the most bizarre joke. As the captured Smurfs are about to be squished, No Name and Smurfette come to save the day. And No Name is confident, talking trash and moonwalking, until the magic book comes out from under his hat and confesses that it was the one casting the magic for No Name the entire time. I do like when Smurfette tries to make No Name feel better by saying, "At least the moonwalk was you." but then the book corrects her that no, that was the book's magic at work too. Rosamel tries to persuade Smurfette to return home with him and Gargamel, fulfilling her original purpose as their undercover agent, which causes her inner conflict, which I cannot believe we are going through this again. We've seen this so many times, and if they're going to do this storyline, why choose to do it with such little time left? It's the strangest subplot to bring up now. I have no idea why you'd even make mention of it, but we'll get to the payoff of this subplot later. Rosamel takes control of the fourth and final book and begins reading a spell, which he notes sounds weird, and we see Joel is holding up the clipboard upside down, which is funny. The movie is this up and down of having a scene with either a modern style joke that chases trendy lingo or TV or movie tropes which don't quite hit, but then we'll follow it up with a pretty decent joke. It never allows the movie to get too low, but never reach a consistent height I think actually could have been attainable here. Like when Rosamel corrupts the magic book, and while entranced it says in a monotone inflection, "I don't want to be evil." It's not the greatest joke in cinema, but the delivery is funny, and when you put enough of these comical bits in a row, you at the very least get an enjoyable watch. As Joel is about to destroy the Smurfs once and for all on Rosamel's behalf, Gargamel frees them on an account of wanting to take his brother down a peg for constantly belittling him. They escape, and Papa and Ken explain the legend of Ron, the most heroic Smurf of them all. And there's a cool battle scene between the three and Rosamel, and I really like the creative idea of Rosamel bringing Rubble to life in his likeness to battle the Smurfs. It was really cool and really creative. With the fourth book finally in his possession, Rosamel imprisons the other wizards and makes his way into space to take over the universe, trying to eliminate all the goodness in the world once and for all. And Smurfette's secret plan finally comes to fruition, pretending to be on Rosamel's side in order to get the book back. If that's what that brief seed of doubt with Smurfette earlier was supposed to set up, it's an unsatisfying payoff, not even worth that scene from before. Just skip it and have them go straight to fighting against Rosamel. It comes off as forced otherwise. All three fall through a portal chasing the book, transforming into claymation, pencil, anime, and video game versions of themselves. It's interesting to see them in different art styles, but even that bit has appeared in a number of movies where it's starting to become a bit stale itself. But the deep cut reference to the 1982 Atari 5200 game Smurf Rescue in Gargamel's Castle was awesome to see. Rosamel secures the book, but No Name suddenly discovers he didn't need the book to be a hero, because the magic was in him all along. I can't act like I was expecting an immense level of depth to this ending, but for the movie to all of a sudden act like this was always feasible, and he's the first Smurf ever to attain these powers simply by believing in himself, I'd suggest making it so Smurfs used to be able to harness magic. Maybe Ron was the only other Smurf who knew how, and when he disappeared, so too did the knowledge of how to cast magic. Or if they want to go another way with it, have it so he decides that the magic within him is how much he cares for others, and that's what he'll be known for. But personally, I'm not a fan of giving him magic powers of what to me amounts to pity, which I think completely sends the wrong message. He brings back the Smurfs with his magic, all of them singing the Smurf song together, and uses his magic to defeat Rosamel, sending him to another dimension. There's a wild wrap up to this scene, where No Name, high off his victory, suggests a few names for himself, including Kick, and the next word is bleeped out for cursing, which I'll admit totally caught me off guard. And when the other Smurfs are surprised at his cursing, he apologizes, saying he doesn't know what the bleep he was thinking, but protesting that time he said Smurf and sound effects Smurf bleeped him out. No Name settles on his new name, Magic Smurf. Ron comes back to rejoin the Smurfs, and we end the movie with another dance party. Rosamel still trapped in another dimension, and Gargamel ready to pursue the Smurfs once again. Two things surprised me about 2025's Smurfs. The first is how badly its main trailer misrepresented the movie, focusing on the aspects that weren't as prevalent as they were advertised. Rhianna was one of the leads, but didn't talk much aside from a few gustoless lines. Smurf puns weren't a big factor, there wasn't a pervading soundtrack, the pop culture moments were mostly odd side jokes instead of full-blown eye rollers. The humor is best when it gets away from the shackles of what it feels it has to do to keep modern attention spans, and leads into its own comedic flair. The song that feels like it has real passion behind it is followed by another that feels manufactured. Though critics and audiences have generally agreed on their dislike for the movie, with less than favorable reviews, and the opening box office weekend tracking at $11 million, reflecting those beliefs. If you're a massive Smurfs fan, or have kids little enough to be enthralled by blue critters and harmless mischief, it's okay to put on. It's an up and down affair, but the end result is a Smurfs movie that isn't bad at all. I wouldn't consider it a particularly good movie, and I can't see myself ever returning to it, but I can say it ranks among the best of the recent Smurf movies. Now, whether you view that as a compliment or an insult, watch the movie yourself, then let me know.